Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Daily Red Devil. Before we get into today's episode, I have a small favour to ask. Please subscribe to the channel if you are new. We're only one subscriber away from 41,100, so go and do that right now. And also make sure to give the video a like. Let's try and see 500 likes on this episode. My question for you all this morning is about INEOS, and it's about the Premier League title. We will be talking about that in a couple of minutes' time. But the question is this: when, if ever, do you think INEOS will bring a Premier League title to Manchester United? Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. How many years will it take for Manchester United to win a Premier League title? Let me know. And I know some people are probably thinking, I can't even begin to think about that question at the moment. We're so far away from it. But just have a long, hard think. How many years? 1 year, 2 years, 3 years? Just put your answer in the comment section. I'll read through all of them. I'll like some of them. I'll reply to some of them. So go and do that right now. And the reason that we bring this up is because the first story that we've got for you this morning is, believe it or not, in relation to INEOS and winning the Premier League title. So let's start there. So this is coming out from multiple different people this morning, that Sir Dave Brailsford has unveiled a plan to the Manchester United staff called Mission 21. He says the plan aims to bring the club their 21st Premier League title. He says Brailsford wrote the plan with the help of James Morton, a professor at Liverpool John Moores University, who is the former head of nutrition and performance at Sky and a former Liverpool nutritionist. Brailsford and Morton presented their Mission 21 project to performance managers at Carrington. It says the project is part of the Project 150 initiative, which was presented by Omar Barada last fall and is linked to the club's 150th anniversary in 2028. The main players in this project are Barada, Wilcox and Brailsford. So effectively, INEOS have put together this plan, and the plan is to win the Premier League title by 2028. How do you feel about that? Is that realistic? So that is 3 years from now. So it won't be next season. I'm just trying to think. 2028. So we're in 2025 now. So this season will end in May. Next season will end in May 2026. So yeah, it'll be 3 years from now. May 2028. That's when the Premier League title will end. So you've got this season, next season. So it's 3 seasons away. Yeah. I'm just trying to get my head around it. 3 seasons away. Do I think that's realistic? I don't know, to be honest. I mean, at the moment, it's very, very difficult to see us winning a Premier League title in 3 years. I think being back in the top 4 in 3 years is maybe a realistic target. But when you look at the teams around us, I don't know if anybody watched the Arsenal-Newcastle game yesterday, but you know, even teams like Newcastle are absolutely incredible. I know they played a little bit defensively yesterday, but still, like, you've got Arsenal beating Man City 5-1, and then yesterday you see Newcastle beat Arsenal 2-0, 4-0 on aggregate. Like, the Premier League is just so competitive now. Teams like Brighton, Bournemouth have had a phenomenal season. Nottingham Forest have had a phenomenal season. Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City, Tottenham. Like, I mean, there are so many good teams, so many good players, so many good managers. And I think the problem that we find ourselves in is we're quite far behind the rest of them. And I mean teams like Bournemouth. I don't mean teams like Man City and Liverpool and Arsenal. We're miles behind them. But we're quite far behind teams like Bournemouth, Brighton, Newcastle, Aston Villa. And the problem is, if we don't get European football, our ability to spend will go down. The amount of sponsorships will go down. The amount of money from TV revenue will go down. So they're just going to keep getting better and better by way of their squads, by way of their resources, and we're going to start going downhill. And that's the problem that we have. I mean, all you have to do is look at Aston Villa's transfer window as an example. Our transfer window this window was signing an 18-year-old from Arsenal who's never played a minute of professional football, Aidan Heaven. He might turn into a world-class player, but at the moment he's really just a prospect, isn't he? And then the other deals we did was signing Patrick Dorgu, who's, let's be honest, also a prospect player. He's not the finished product. Whereas you look at teams like Aston Villa, right? Aston Villa in one window signed Marcus Rashford on loan. Some people will say, "Oh, that's a bad signing." It's still a big name signing. They signed Rashford on loan. They bought Donnell Marlin for 25 million euros, who's a decent player. I probably would have taken him at Manchester United, to be honest. They got Axel Disasi on loan. They got that. Who else did they get? They got a couple of other players as well, didn't they? What's he called? Asensio. from Real Madrid. Or was he at PSG now? Anyway, the point I'm making is they signed 4 or 5 decent players in the January window, and then all you have to do is look at Man City. They spent about 200 million in January. They signed 2 centre-backs and a midfielder, whereas we're kind of scraping the barrel to buy a relatively unknown player from Serie A. But yeah, so in my answer to the question, obviously the whole point of this section was to react to the story that apparently INEOS are speaking to the Man United staff, saying that by 2028, they're confident, they're planning to win a Premier League title by 2028. I think that's unrealistic, personally. My expectation would be that we're back in the top 4 by 2028. That would be, and then this is going to sound bad, but that would be an achievement. Obviously, it's not going to happen this year. I mean, next year, maybe. It all depends on recruitment, really. If we see 10 players signed for Man United and Man United get rid of 50% of the squad, if in the summer, the goal, Onana's gone, Luke Shaw's gone, Mason Mount's gone, Eriksen goes, Johnny Evans goes, Xerxes goes, Rashford goes, Sancho goes, and then maybe like a shock sale like Bruno or someone. Like, I'm not saying I want to sell Bruno, I'm just giving an example. If they do something absolutely crazy like that and they sell 10 first team players and bring in 10 new first team players, then maybe they could surprise us and we'll get top 4 next year. But I don't know. I just don't see it with this current set of players. Dallow's another player that I'd probably sell. So for me, I mean, the most depressing thought of this whole conversation is you've got to look at Arsenal, right? Mikel Arteta joined Arsenal. Let's have a look. Was it 6 years ago, 5 years ago? Let's have a look. So Mikel Arteta. So Arsenal have had Mikel Arteta. He officially took the job on the 22nd of December. So he's in his 6th year, Mikel Arteta, and he's won 1 FA Cup, which was in his first year before he had any of the players he had now. So he was using Unai Emery's squad still, and he won an FA Cup. That was in his first year. So since he's had his own team, really, he hasn't won anything. Yes, they're challenging, but so I don't know. I would say, like, if we kept Ruben Amorim for 5 or 6 years and we, stuck by him, maybe then you could start discussing winning titles. But I think for INEOS to think that within 3 years we're going to be winning Premier League titles, that's pretty unrealistic. But obviously, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. How many years do you think it will be before Manchester United can win a Premier League title? And I know some people are like, why are we having this conversation? But obviously, the reason we're having this conversation is because at the moment, INEOS are carrying out meetings at Carrington with the staff, talking about this Project 21, saying that by 2028, we're going to win another title. So that's why we're having the conversation. We're reacting to that. I'm saying 5 or 6 years, probably minimum for me. But I mean, at the same time, you never know in football. You never know. Maybe next year we win the title. Like, Leicester City won the title. Were they 500 to 1? Or was it more? What were the odds on Leicester to win the title? Let's have a look. What were the odds on Leicester? So at the beginning of the season, when Leicester won the Premier League title, Leicester were 5,000 to 1 to win the Premier League title, and they won it. So the point I'm making is crazy things happen in football, don't they? So you never know, but I just don't see it with this set of players. But maybe if Leicester can do it, so can we. That's such a depressing thought, isn't it? That we're having to look at Leicester as inspiration, as a team who no one thought would win the Premier League. And that's like our inspiration now. Like, oh, if Leicester can do it, we can do it. It's like we're like a Burnley or something, But anyway, let's move on from that. Obviously, let me know how many years you think it will take Manchester United to win the Premier League title in the comment section below. But let's move on from that and let's talk a little bit about Casemiro. Now, just to clarify, the window in Turkey is still open. So that's why we're talking about Casemiro. I'm just going to double check when the window does close. I think it might be today. Let's have a look. When does the Turkish transfer window close? Oh, wow, the Turkish transfer window doesn't close until the 11th of February. So that is next week sometime. Is it next Monday? So yeah, we've still got another 5 days of the Turkish transfer window. But yeah, the story coming out this morning is that apparently Besiktas, which is obviously the club that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is the manager at, want to sign Casemiro. It looks like it would be a loan deal. I mean, it's not really one to get massively excited about because realistically, if Casemiro goes to Besiktas, Manchester United will probably be paying most of his salary. So this is coming out from the Manchester Evening News that Besiktas are trying to sign Casemiro as Turkish clubs continue to do business this winter. As I said, their window doesn't close until the 11th of February. I think at this point, like, I would just write Casemiro off. You know, even if Besiktas said to us, we'll give you like 5 million for him. And I know that sounds laughable at this point, but I would just take it just to get his wages off the wage bill. His contract expires next summer. We probably have paid off most of his fee. Let me just work out how much of his fee we've got left to pay. So he signed on a 4-year deal and we paid 70 million euros for him. So we have paid off... We've paid off 52.5 million euros on his contract. We've got 17.5 million euros left to pay for Casemiro in relation to amortization. So, you know, if we got, say we got 10 million euros for him, 15 million euros, that would only present, if it was 10 million euros, it would be a 7.2 million loss. If it was 15, it would be a 2.5 million loss. So you can see the logic there. Obviously, people will say, oh, let's sell him to Saudi, but their window's closed and they clearly didn't want him. Otherwise, they would have gone for him. At this point, if we could get his wages off the wage bill, he's on 350 grand a week, which is absolutely mental. And he's only got, well, in the summer, he'll have 1 year left on his deal. So I think his wages are about 20 million a season. So whether he goes now or goes in the summer, one of the two has to happen. He has to be pushed out of the club because we can't pay him another 20 million next season and then him leave for free. Like that would just be the most frustrating thing if we were to do that. But yeah, hopefully Ole Gunnar Solskjaer can do us a bit of a favour here. Hopefully he can come and save us and get rid of Casemiro, because to be honest, I would rather just give Toby Collier his game time at this point. Toby Collier's at least got the legs. Obviously, Casemiro was a world-class player in his time, but he's past it now. We all know that. He's been past it for a while. And I think it is time to start giving some of these young players a go. I mean, even the Manu Kone guy in the youth academy, like I'd rather see him play than Casemiro. At least he'd be able to bring some legs to the team. At least he's still got that kind of determination and that desire to impress and to shine. Whereas we saw Casemiro last season. I remember he played a really bad game, and after the game he was getting criticism, and his wife was on Instagram later that day posting up pictures of his trophy room, you know, in his house with all his trophies in and stuff. And it's just a bit like, we don't need that at Manchester United anymore. We don't need players who are past it, who are then so insecure that they have a bad game, they receive criticism, and then their partners, their wives, whatever you want to call them, are putting up pictures of their trophy cabinets later that evening to try and to kind of come back at the fans. Like we just don't need that. We need young, hungry players like Toby Collier, people like that, who can come through and will do everything for the shirt and everything really to prove themselves on the world stage. So yeah, let's hope this one gets done. As I said, the most likely option here would be a loan deal, I imagine. Brian says that their window closes next Tuesday. Yeah, next Tuesday. And as I said a couple of minutes ago, he will only have 1 year left on his contract in the summer. Casemiro, his contract ends in June 2026. So this is we either sell him this window or in the summer, because remember, when the player gets into the final year of their contract, they can agree a pre-contract deal in the January of that year. Does that make sense? So in January 2026, which is only 9 months away, he can agree a pre-contract deal with someone else, but we would still have to pay him. So I can see somebody in the chat asking about Chido Obi Martin. I have actually got some news about Chido Obi Martin that I wanted to bring into the chat, because Fabrizio was talking about Chido Obi Martin, and he's saying that apparently there is a strong chance that Chido Obi Martin will get first team minutes now this season. So I'm happy about that. I don't want to be harsh, but I don't think he can be any worse than Xerxes and Hojlund, to be honest. I know he's young. I know there's the potential that he comes in and it's toxic and he doesn't perform, and then, people give him abuse, and that's going to happen in any form of life, but he is only 17. I get that. But multiple different people this morning are saying that they expect him to be kind of thrown into the first team now because we need goals, and he's a striker. He's a clinical striker, and he is doing well for the, I think he's been in the under-18s for the first part of the season, and now he's been in the under-21. So he's got so far 5 goals and 1 assist in 6 games in the under-18s, and he's got 4 goals in the FA Youth Cup in 2 games. So his stats for the season are he's got a goal in every game he's played in, which is pretty well. I mean, it's good, isn't it? I know it's obviously the level is a lot lower, and when you look at the size of him and stuff, he's a lot bigger than some of the other under 18-year-old players. But still, we need goals, and he's scoring goals. So give him a chance. Why not? Why not? How old was Rashford when he got his debut? How old was Rashford? Yeah, Rashford was only 18 on his debut. Chido Obi Martin's only 17. How old was Mainu on his debut? 17, was it? Yeah, Mainu was 18. Rashford was 18. So I think he's 17, but still, how old was Garnacho? Garnacho was only 17. Garnacho made his Man United debut at the age of 17. So I think at the end of the day, the point I'm making here is age is just a number, isn't it? So give him a chance. Why not? Give Chido Obi Martin a chance. Give this Aiden Heaven guy a chance. Give Toby Collier a chance. Maybe give that Kone guy a chance, that CDM. Because at this point, I think most of this fan base are done with probably 90% of these players. Like when you look through the spine of our team and you look through the players that we still have, I would say there's still only a handful that most Man United fans would actually keep. I'd probably keep Manuel Ugarte. I'd keep Lenny Yoro. I'd keep. I mean, I'm literally. I've got down to about halfway down the list here. I'd keep Mainu. I'd keep Ahmad. But being completely honest, those are probably the only players that I would 100% keep. Amad Diallo, Kobbie Mainoo, and Manuel Ugarte. Martinez injury prone. Matthias de Ligt, I think he's an alright as a squad player, but I don't think he's like a, he's not a Saliba, he's not a Van Dijk, he's not a Gabriel, he's not a Ruben Dias. Like he's good, but he's not that level, is he? And then all the others, like people like Lindelof, Maguire, Johnny Evans, Luke Shaw, Dalot, Casemiro, Ericsson, Mason Mount. Like, I'd get rid of all of them. I honestly would only keep, looking at our whole squad at the point of recording this video, I would 100% keep Ahmad. I'd 100% keep Manuel Ugarte. I think he's been good this season. And I'd 100% keep Mainu and Lenny Yoro. Obviously, people like Toby Collier don't really come into this conversation because they're just kind of breaking through into the first team. We're talking about like settled first team players, people who have established first team players. Onana I'd get rid of. Martinez I'd get rid of. Maguire I'd get rid of. Lindelof I'd get rid of. Johnny Evans I'd get rid of. Luke Shaw I'd get rid of. Dalot. Mazraoui I think is a good squad player. Casemiro get rid of. Ericsson get rid of. Bruno, I mean, at the age of 30, if someone offered me 100 million euros for Bruno Fernandes from Saudi, I'd sell him in a heartbeat. Mason Mount get rid of. Garnacho, again, if someone offered massive money for Garnacho, I would sell him personally. I'm not talking like 40 million. I'm talking like 80, 90 million. If someone offered that kind of money, I would definitely sell him. Rasmus, I think, again, if we could recoup the money that we paid for Rasmus, I would take that in a heartbeat, 100%. There are some reports this morning, actually. Let me just talk about Rasmus really, really quickly. I'd be interested to know what like the fan base overall is thinking about Rasmus. Let's do a poll. Could everyone do me a little favour, actually? Could you all make sure to like the video? I'd really, really appreciate that. Let's try and get to 500 likes. We've got about 400 people watching. And be sure to subscribe as well. I've just dropped a link into the chat. We are on the brink of hitting 41,100. So please go and do that. We're only one away, so somebody watching who isn't subscribed, let's do a little poll on Rasmus Hojlund, because I'm interested to see. So we'll do this. What would you do with Hojlund? Keep. We'll do 3 options. We'll do keep, sell, loan. I would probably, for me personally, I'm gonna answer this in 2 ways. If someone offered us all the money that we paid on Hojlund, I'd sell him 100%. But that's not going to happen. So that's just, I don't know why I'm even talking about it. Between selling him for less than what we paid and loaning him, I'd loan him. I'd loan him out for a season, maybe to another Premier League team. Go and sign someone like Gyökeres in the summer and loan out Hojlund for the rest of the season to, like, I don't know, a Fulham or an Everton or somewhere where he's going to play every single game. That's what I would do personally, because I just think that at the moment his career is going backwards. I don't think he's progressing. I'm just looking back here on the David Ornstein tweet from July 2023. Manchester United will pay Atalanta a fixed fee of 75 million euros plus 10 million euros in add-ons. Crazy, a 5-year deal. Atalanta were asking for 90 million euros. But yeah, the reason I'm talking about Rasmus Hojlund is because there are some people this morning saying that apparently West Ham have identified Rasmus Hojlund as their top transfer target for the summer window, and Manchester United would be willing to sell him for around £40 million plus add-ons. How does everybody feel about that? If I said to you now, West Ham will give you £40 million for Hojlund in the summer, would you accept that deal? Let me know. Obviously, that's a lot less than what we paid for him. Let me just work out how much we've got left to pay on his contract. So let's have a look. So we do euros to pounds. So I think it's important to know how much we've paid off on the contract, because obviously, so we paid about 61.5 million, right? And it was on a 5-year deal. So we do 61.5 divided by 5 times by 2 minus 61.5. Okay, so we've got £36.9 million. In the summer, we will have £36.9 million left to pay for Hojlund. So if we sold him for 40, in relation to profit and sustainability and PSR, we would technically make on the books a profit of 3.1 million. Because obviously the money we've already paid is gone. That's already been filed in those accounts for 2023 and 24. So if we sold them for 40 million, we would technically make money. We'd make just over £3 million. I don't know then. If someone said to me we had to sell Hojlund to buy Gyökeres, I'd sell Hojlund 100%. But if we were in a good enough financial position where we could buy Gyökeres and still loan out Hojlund and keep him, I'd probably keep him. Send him to a West Ham on loan for the season, see how he gets on. Because he still is young, he still does have potential. But I just don't think he's good enough at the moment to to be leading the line for Manchester United. And I think we'd all agree on that. But you can obviously let me know your thoughts on this one. Yeah, let me know. What else have we got in the chat? Chikorito says, the hypocrisy. Why are we not patient with Rasmus? He's only 21 years of age, but we're patient with others like Toby Collier. I think Toby Collier's played maybe... Let's have a little look, shall we? It's not really a very good argument, unfortunately. I get that you're trying to stand up for a player, which I appreciate. But Toby Collier, in his whole Manchester United career, has played 121 Premier League minutes, right? He's only just come into the first team. This is Rasmus Hojlund's second full season, and we're more than halfway through that now. So you don't really have an equal set of data to compare, do you? If Toby Collier had been in the first team for 2 years and started going backwards, then I think most people would be criticising him. But Toby Collier has literally made a couple of appearances, realistically. as I said, 121 minutes he's played in the Premier League this season. That's like the equivalent of what? Not even 1.5 games of football. Whereas you look at Hojlund's stats, right? Hojlund this season alone has played nearly 1,200 minutes in the Premier League, so 12 times the amount. And then last season, he played 2,500 minutes in the Premier League. So you've got one player in Toby Collier who's played about 100 minutes in his professional career for Manchester United in the Premier League. And then you've got Hojlund, who's played like across the 2 seasons about 3,500 minutes of football. And he scored, so he played 30 times last season and got 10 goals. And this season he's played 20 games and scored 2 goals. So this is why people are questioning it. 10 goals in 30 matches isn't terrible for Hojlund last season. But 2 goals in 20 games is terrible. You know, like whether you like Hojlund or not. I mean, what would that average out at? So if you do 2 divided by 19, if he was to carry on with the same goal scoring stats until the end of the season and played in every single game, he would be on 4 goals at the end of the season. I think Lisandro Martinez has got more goals than Hojlund, doesn't he, this season in the Premier League? Let's have a look. And he's a defender. Let's have a look. Martinez. Yeah, Martinez has got 2 goals in the Premier League this season, and so does Hojlund. So, yeah, but let's have a look at the results of the poll then quickly. Wow, so the poll's really, really equal. 38% of people watching the video today said they'd keep Hojlund. 32% say sell, and 30% say loan. 20 Legend says, if you had to pick between Alexander Isak and Gyökeres, who would you prefer? I'd go with Isak, definitely. 100%. Premier League proven. There's a lot of people saying that Hojlund doesn't get service. I get that. Hojlund doesn't get service as that much, but he doesn't create anything himself either. His hold-up play is bad. He doesn't create space for others. If he's not getting chances, then a good striker will open up gaps so other players can effectively get space and score goals. But he doesn't do that either, you know? Ryan says Rasmus is good at finishing, but apart from that, he's not very good. Yeah, I would agree with that. Rasmus, if you give him the ball on the penalty spot, he'll probably score. But the rest of his game, I think, is weak. And at the moment, we need players who can do more than just score a tap in, pretty much. That's the argument here, isn't it? If he went to Arsenal, he'd probably do well because they create a lot of chances. They create a lot of, easy chances. But yeah, I would go with Alexander Isak. He's absolutely unbelievable. But that's going to cost you, what, like 150 million? So, Al says age is irrelevant. What is relevant is the price tag we paid for him. He was priced like a first-team starter. Hojlund simply isn't good enough, like all of Erik ten Hag's signings. I would agree. And Hanif says Hojlund is fast and a good finisher, but his first touch is dreadful. Somebody else is saying his first touch is dreadful. Yeah, I'd say his first touch is worse than Lukaku's, and he used to get absolute abuse for his first touch. To think that this fan base, right, used to... I'm not saying you specifically, because obviously I didn't do this channel. I've only been doing this channel about a year, so I don't know what you all thought of Lukaku at the time, but I remember when Lukaku was a Manchester United player, right? People used to give him all sorts of criticism, didn't they? Oh, he's not good enough. Get rid of him. But like, you look at his stats, Lukaku, right? I'm going to get them up now and compare them with Hojlund. I know it was a different time. I know you had different players, but I would argue that on paper, the players we have now are better than the players we had when Lukaku was here. Would you agree? Like the players that we had around Lukaku. And let's have a look at Lukaku's stats. So Lukaku's first season for Manchester United in the Premier League, he got 18 goals and 6 assists, 24 goals and assists, right? You go to the next season. So this is Lukaku's second season at Manchester United. I mean, this is actually mad. So in Lukaku's second season at Man United, he got 25 goals and 6 assists in the Premier League. And then we have people in our fan base who are standing up for Hojlund, saying, oh, I mean, and that was 7 years ago. So Lukaku was like 23 at the time. The next season, he got 16 goals and 7 assists. And the season after that, which was his last season, he got 12 goals. So he did kind of start to dip off a little bit. But, to be getting like 18, 20 goals consecutively in 2 or 3 years is pretty remarkable in this Man United side. And I'm not by any means saying that we should have kept Lukaku. I'm just saying that, when you compare what we have now to what we had before, and everyone at the time was like, oh, Lukaku's not good enough. His first touch is awful. But he was still banging in like 20 goals a season. And now we've got somebody who's got an awful first touch, spends most of the game wrestling the players to the ground. Yes, he doesn't get as many chances, but he doesn't create chances either. So, I don't know. It's just interesting, isn't it, when you compare what we had before with what we have now. So... But really, if you actually want to take all of this comparison and this conversation away, the real problem here is not Rasmus Hojlund at all. The problem was that Manchester United was stupid enough to pay 75 million euros for him. If he cost us 20 million euros, the perception would be completely different. But as somebody said in the chat above, we paid a fee for Hojlund, which was a fee for a first-team starting player who's going to get you 20 goals in the Premier League. So if anything, as we always do, we've set this player up to fail. Realistically, we should have never have paid 75 million euros for him. At the time, his market value was probably about 40. And if we'd have paid 40 million euros for him, it would have been no problem at all. No one would have been talking about him. People would have been saying he's young, give him time, give him a chance. But we paid more than what Newcastle paid for Alexander Isak. And now our expectations as a fan base are that we should be getting somebody of that level who's going to get you 15, 20 goals a season, minimum, Alexander Isak has got 17 goals in 22 games this season alone. Hojlund's got 12 goals in his whole Manchester United career in the Premier League. So this season alone, Isak has scored 5 more goals than Hojlund scored in 2 years for Manchester United in the Premier League. And he cost Newcastle 5 million euros less than what we paid. So that's the real problem here. The real problem is not Hojlund. He's young. He deserves time. I get all of that. And that's why I said I'd loan him out. The real problem is that John Murtagh, Ed Woodward, not Ed Woodward, he was gone by then, Richard Arnold, John Murtagh were dumb enough to give Atalanta 75 million euros for a young player who at that point was just potential. That's a fair argument, isn't it? So yeah, the blame should be taken away from Hojlund and should be levelled towards John Murtagh, Richard Arnold. Right, the final story I've got for you this morning is about Luke Shaw. So it looks like Luke Shaw's injured again. Oh, God. Again. I mean, is there really much more to say? Luke Shaw was apparently in the squad for the team against Leicester tomorrow. Great. Finally, we have him back. And then a story breaks yesterday saying Luke Shaw's got injured again. For how long, we don't know. Some people are saying a month. Some people are saying a week. But the point of the matter is, he keeps getting closer and closer to back to full fitness, we're told. Right? And then he suddenly just falls off a cliff again. And he's back to the beginning. So the story says that Luke Shaw has suffered a setback to his current injury. He'll be out for at least another 4 weeks, depending on treatment and rehab. I mean, there's not even that long left of the season. So let's have a look. How many weeks till Premier League ends? So the Premier League season ends... Premier League season ends in about 20 odd weeks. And Luke Shaw's going to be out for another 4 weeks. So, best case scenario, we maybe get Luke Shaw back for, I don't know, the final 2 or 3 months of the season. And then it's the summer. And then he's off on holiday again. They just need to rip up the contract and get rid of him. But, I mean, at the same time, by doing that, that means you've got to pay him off. Which is obviously going to cost a lot of money. So they won't do that. It's just frustrating that we still even have to talk about Luke Shaw at this club, to be honest. It's frustrating again. As I said, Rasmus Hojlund isn't the problem. John Murtaugh and Richard Arnold are the problem for spending 75 million. Luke Shaw's not the problem. John Murtaugh and Richard Arnold are the problem. They were the ones who were dumb enough to give him a new contract when he'd been injured for most of that season. To give him, I think it was a 5-year deal at the age of 28 when he was injury prone. So it's all good and well us targeting this anger at the players, which is fine. They deserve some criticism. But really, the anger should be levelled at these people like John Murtaugh and Richard Arnold, these executives who are paid probably millions of pounds a year to make the decisions that me or you could make better than them, and they mess it up. And they're paid millions of pounds every single season to do that. Obviously, they're not in the club anymore. Now it's people like Omar Barada, Jason Wilcox, etc. And we hope that they're learning from the mistakes of the past. But like Luke Shaw would probably rather not be injured, you know? It's not like he's I don't know. It's just annoying. And as long as we learn from it, hopefully that we can, you know, turn a corner here. So yeah, but I'm going to wrap the video up here. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. Please do me a small favor before you go. Make sure to like the video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. And once the video goes live, I want you to get in the comment section once it's been published. And I want you to let me know how many years you think it will be before we win a Premier League title. Let me know. I think like 6 or 7, that's my guess. So you go and put yours in the comment section below. Thank you very much for watching. This has been Daily Red Devil, and I'll speak to you all on the next one. Bye for now.